Angie ran down the bank of the river, her eyes searching the rocks until she spotted one of her sons, Gabe. He didn't look right.
And I look around and I don't see my brother. And so I yell at Gabe, I'm like, hey, where's Gordo? And he goes, Gordo's under the water.
There started to be a panic that was kind of rising. There seems to be something wrong.
So out of the top of my lungs, I go crazy and I start yelling.
The water is dark, like you can't see the bottom. People ended up diving in and kind of just feeling around in the water to see if they could feel a body.
This is the Miracle Files. I'm Emily Jones.
And I'm Holly Worthington. We're two sisters who love a captivating true story, but we're also seeking more light in our lives.
So we're on a mission to find and share unforgettable, uplifting stories of God's miracles. We hope you'll join us on this journey.
Welcome back to the Miracle Files. Today's story takes place on the Oregon coast again, kind of like our boat wreck episode, but this is down further south near a little town called Florence.
Yeah, my friend actually shared this story with us, and she has been listening to our podcast for over a year. But as she was thinking about the miracles she's had in her life, she remembered a miracle that her sister-in-law was a part of. And I'm so glad she did, because it's an amazing story.
Yeah, so keep thinking about the miracles in your lives, because you probably have some that you haven't shared with us. You're holding out. We know you are.
We've had a lot of people tell us that lately. Like, I don't know, I was hesitating. But
yeah, I know people are like, I really wanted to share this, but I've been nervous. And we get it. But share your stories with us. We love it when you share your stories with us.
Yep. All right, let's jump in. At an early age, Enrique's family started calling him Gordo, and the name stuck. He doesn't mind. The funny thing is that Enrique is anything but Gordo. He's actually quite thin, and the name fits his fun-loving personality. But you're going to hear from two perspectives in this story. One from a woman named Anne, who calls him Enrique, and one from his sister, Angie, who lovingly calls him Gordo. We'll call him Enrique. Our story starts on a sunny weekday in Florence, Oregon. The year was 2020. So if I tell you it was the summer at the start of the COVID crisis, you'll understand why outdoor activities were especially popular at the time. Enrique, an energetic 24-year-old college student, invited his sister Angie and their family to go to the Siuslaw River to a place known only to locals as the Rock Slides. Here's Angie.
My brother had invited us to go over to the river. He goes, hey, let's go to the river. Since our sister Elisa is in town with her husband, like, let's go to the river. So we went to the river and, we were having fun at the river. It was just my mom, my nephew, my kids, my sister and her husband.
At the same time, another local, Anne Lacouture, was heading to the river with her own family.
Our family goes to the Rock Slides usually at least once a summer. It's a really fun location. And what it is, it's this little section on the Siuslaw River where there's basically like a natural water slide. So there's kind of like these pools that are formed where you can swim and you can climb up the rocks and jump off the rocks. And there's a waterfall. The rocks kind of go downhill in the water, and the water runs along the rocks and has made them smooth. And so if you sit on them, especially if you have a tube or one of those blue mats you'd ride on a water slide, it's really slippery. And so you ride down just like a water slide. And it's really, really fun. And then at the end of the rock slide is another pool area that's deep enough to swim. And there's a fallen log that kind of stretches across that swimming hole, and people often will kind of jump off it into the swimming hole. So July 2020, our family, along with several other families, made the plan to go to the rock slides.
That day, the sun beamed brightly, shimmering on the river and warming the sunbathers on the rocks. The sound of water, laughter, and occasional splashes filled the air. No one expected danger to strike. Enrique, Angie, their mother, their sister Elisa, their brother-in-law Robert, and Angie's two sons headed to the natural water slide, something they'd done many times. Angie chatted with her mother and sister, enjoying the warmth of the sun. Enrique and Angie's 2 sons jumped off a log into the pool below. Anne was also enjoying the day with her family and friends, when suddenly the familiar sounds of laughter and splashing were interrupted by a different sound altogether. Frantic mumbling, then voices rising, and almost instantly, people screaming. It was the sound of panic. A little girl had been sitting up on a rock and had seen Enrique and his nephews jumping into the pool. But Enrique had never resurfaced, and the little girl had told her family that a man went under the water and had never come up. The father immediately started looking in the pool.
So my mom and I were talking, and then out of nowhere, I lose sight of my brother and my son. And so I look at my mom and I'm like, hey, do you see Gordo? She goes, I can't see. She wears glasses. She didn't have her glasses that day. I was like, okay. So I started to kind of panic. And I was like, I'm not liking this. Like, I felt something in my heart, essentially, that something wasn't right. And so I was looking for my brother and my son.
Angie ran down the bank of the river, her eyes searching the rocks, until she spotted one of her sons, Gabe, sitting up on a boulder next to the bottom pool. He didn't look right. The little girl sat next to him, also looking terrified.
And I look around and I don't see my brother. And so I yell at Gabe, I'm like, hey, where's Gordo? And he's scared, mind you. He's like trying to hold on. And he goes, Gordo's under the water.
Gordo is under the water? Those words rang in Angie's ears. Her heart dropped as her eyes searched the dark pool beneath the water slide. Enrique was nowhere to be seen.
So out of the top of my lungs, I go crazy and I start yelling.
Angie's brother-in-law, Robert, joined her and jumped into the water, searching for Enrique. But the water was deep, an inky dark blue. No one could see Enrique at all beneath the surface. Anne heard the commotion from the top of the rock slides.
There started to be a panic that was kind of rising from the bottom of the rock slides where that pool is to the top of the rock slides. You could tell something was wrong because there was a lady that was kind of in a panic. She didn't speak English and she was crying and talking to people, and then other people were running back down and coming back up, and there seems to be something wrong.
As Robert, Enrique's brother-in-law, swam through the water, trying to find Enrique, bystanders gathered around to see what was happening. Anne noticed a few women fretting on the shore. She was pretty sure the older one was the missing man's mother, and her heart went out to her. Meanwhile, Robert and others kept searching in the water.
The water is dark. It's not like crystal blue, like you can't stand above it and look in and see the ground by any means. There's all these dark rocks under there and moss and who knows what else, but you can't see the bottom. And so people ended up jumping in and diving in and kind of just feeling around in the water to see if they could feel a body.
Tension spread throughout the crowd as the minutes ticked past. And with each passing moment, hope began to dwindle that Enrique would be found in time.
And for several minutes, nobody could feel anything. But then eventually there was a man that felt something on his leg. He was kind of vertically in the water, and he could feel something with his leg. And so eventually they dove down to where he was feeling something on his leg.
That man was Robert, and the something on his leg was in fact Enrique's limp body. Robert dove down and pulled Enrique to the shore.
Eventually he pulls him out. And so I see a bunch of people coming down to help us out, which Anne was one, and her whole family was there.
Enrique lay on the rocks unconscious. He had been under the water for at least 5 minutes, and without immediate medical care, he would surely die. Yet the nearest hospital was over an hour away, and in this isolated area, there was no cell service to call for help.
His lips were blue, he wasn't breathing, he had consumed a lot of water. We already knew he was pretty much, no pulse or anything.
Elisa, Angie's and Enrique's pregnant sister, immediately knelt over Enrique and began doing CPR. Angie watched, feeling complete despair. Anne also stood by. It was a worst-case scenario. As Enrique's mother also looked on in tears, it seemed there was no hope. But sometimes, when there seems to be no hope, that's when a glimmer appears. Somehow, on that summer day, in a secluded, mostly undiscovered spot in Western Oregon, medical help was closer than Angie realized. And there wasn't just one person there with medical experience. Incredibly, there was essentially a whole emergency room full of doctors and nurses on scene.
2 of my friends are emergency room doctors, and they had the day off that day, and they were with us that day. And one of those emergency room doctors had a brother with her that was also a nurse. And it also happened that on the river that day, there was also at least one other medical professional and another person that was also like a military nurse as well.
The medical professionals all gathered together and began taking turns doing CPR on Enrique. When one would become too tired to continue, another medical professional would take over. Anne watched them work on the unresponsive man. She tried to think about what she could possibly do to help.
And I felt like, what can I do in this situation? Like, this family has this person in their family that has drowned and is now unresponsive. I can't do CPR, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't know anything about what to do. But I did send my son, I said, go to the road and go drive to wherever you've got cell service and call 911, somebody drowned. And we need an ambulance here as soon as possible. In the meantime, the nurses and doctors were all surrounding Enrique, and they were doing CPR.
It was a start, but Anne still felt like she hadn't done enough to help. She looked at the mother and sister of the drowning victim. They were hugging each other and crying.
And the mom was hysterical, of course. She was just hysterical, and she didn't speak English. But her daughter, Angie, Enrique's sister, could speak English. And so I asked her, can I pray with you? Would it help for me to say a prayer?
Angie translated for Anne, and Enrique's mother nodded her head.
So I just kind of huddled near Angie and her mom, and I said a prayer that they would be comforted, that they would feel peace, and of course that the people that were trying to help Enrique would be able to give him the best help possible. And I just continued to stay with them and kind of hold the mom's hand and Angie's hand and just tell them, you know, it's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay. And I didn't know if it was going to be okay. I thought probably it wouldn't. People don't survive drowning very often, but I just thought maybe the role that I can play is just to try to comfort.
The river fell silent as the CPR continued for the next hour.
Enrique was completely unresponsive at all. And so we thought this is probably not going to have a good ending, you know, and it was very, very, very sad.
I remember they were rotating the whole time, so there was quite a bit of people trying to help him.
After what felt like a lifetime, another glimmer of hope appeared. A dim glimmer, but again, it was something. The medical professionals felt a faint pulse. And shortly after, Enrique started breathing on his own. Word spread through the crowd. Enrique was alive. But unfortunately, Enrique still lay unconscious and in critical condition. His life and future hung by a tenuous thread. The ambulance took over an hour and 15 minutes to arrive. There was no road to the bottom of the river, so the medical professionals, who had worked so tirelessly on Enrique, used what little strength they had left to make a stretcher out of a boogie board and carry Enrique's lifeless-looking body to the top. They had done all they could do.
There was kind of this hush that went over the river, kind of out of respect and reverence for what was going on. And of course, we were all praying, and they transported Enrique to the top of the river and then up this really steep staircase that leads to the road.
The ambulance drove Enrique to a clearing where a helicopter sat waiting. Enrique was then life-flighted to the hospital, leaving behind a group of anxious friends and family who had witnessed the incredible efforts to save him. Before they left that day, Anne got Angie's cell phone number, and the next day, Anne reached out to Angie.
I said, "Hello, Angie, this is Anne Lakator. I was with you at the rock slide yesterday when your brother had his accident. I just wanted to let you know we have not stopped thinking about and praying for him, and the rest of you, I hope you have felt the Lord's comfort." And she said, "Hi, thank you so much for reaching out and for your prayers as well. We can't stop thanking God for having you all there. It was not a coincidence. God sent all of you because he knew my brother would need of your help. We are so thankful that all of you were there for my brother and my family. Thank you so much."
In the hospital, Enrique remained in a coma. He had gone over an hour without breathing and without a pulse. The doctors were not optimistic.
When we spoke to the doctor that saw him, she said, yeah, he's young, but even if he were to bounce back, I don't think he'll be 100% fully recovered. Because he had a lot of swelling in his brain. And the doctor said for him to go 5 minutes under the water, that's a long time. And so she goes, in 7 days, if he doesn't wake up, we're going to have to, reconsider other options. So my mom, I remember she was like, doctor, you know what's best for him. So she goes, all I'm asking God is that if he's going to take him, I'm at peace with it taking him because I know God let me have this time with him. But she's like, I've just been telling God, if you're going to leave him, don't leave him with any brain damage or anything because he's very active and so he can't stay still. You know what I mean?
For the next 7 days, family members took turns keeping vigil by his bedside, praying together and seeking comfort in each other's presence. Angie prayed the rosary, her heart filled with faith that maybe a miracle would still take place. Then, on the 7th day, during a quiet moment, there was a third glimmer. Something was happening. It started with a small squeeze of the nurse's hand, a flicker of life. Enrique's hospital room erupted into shouts of surprise and relief. It was a baby step, but his family couldn't help but hope for more. 8 days after the accident, Anne received this text message from Angie. Hi, I wanted to share with you that my brother started moving and following commands last night. I was able to talk to him and he could hear me and listened to me. The doctor evaluated him this morning. She called my sister and told her that he is recovering and that he might have a small long-term effect, but nothing to worry about. I know God is moving mountains for him. Thank you so much for your prayers and for the support and help. We appreciate all of you who were at the lake. Please pray for him to completely heal for his soon recovery. Anne responded, "This is an absolute miracle. Thank you for updating me, and please continue to do so as we continue to pray." 4 days later, Anne received a short message, but with 4 exclamation points. It simply read, "My brother is off the ventilator." And then, just a week after that, Anne received this message from Angie. "My brother is doing great. He was discharged on Monday and was sent to a physical rehabilitation center. He's still there, but will be coming home Monday." Anne couldn't believe that the man who had been underwater for over 5 minutes, who lay unresponsive with no pulse or breathing for over an hour, was recovering with no long-term effects. It was beyond miraculous. Weeks later, Anne and the families who had gathered that fateful day began putting together plans for a barbecue to celebrate Enrique's survival. Anne received another text message. It read, "Hello, is this Anne? My name is Enrique. You have been talking to my sister about a celebration for my recovery. I hope you are okay with her sharing your number with me." He then went on to say, "I hope I didn't give you all too big of a scare that day. To be honest, I don't remember a thing." Anne responded, "It was a very, very terrifying experience, so I'm glad you don't remember, but it's been such a powerful experience to have been a part of." Although Enrique declined to be interviewed because he has no memory of his accident, he is very grateful for the men and women who saved his life. Later, as Enrique arrived at the barbecue, vibrant and full of life, the joy was overwhelming. He and Anne embraced. Enrique expressed his immense gratitude. Everyone shared stories, laughter, and tears of relief, grateful for the miracle they had all been part of that day. A day that could have ended in tragedy, but instead became a testament to hope, community, and the power of prayer.
Wow. So this story really was about community.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like God used all of these different people to help save Enrique's life, these medical experts. And then you have people who are just there supporting and praying. Yeah. Just so many people came together to help Enrique in this situation.
Yeah, and it's not like most of these people even knew each other.
Right.
But one question that I had when I was listening to this was, why did they keep doing CPR for over an hour? Because, I'm not a medical professional, but I would have assumed at that point that it was too late. He's gone. But as we've done research, it's actually the chest compressions that keeps like the oxygen in the blood circulating to the brain, and it kept him alive. And he is so fortunate that he had these medical professionals there.
Yeah. And can you imagine if it just been like one person there trying to do that for that long? I mean,
over an hour.
I'm sure it was exhausting. It was such a miracle that they had so many of these medical professionals there who could take turns, who could help each other with this.
Yeah. If it had been me, Enrique would have been a goner. He would have been toast. Sorry, Enrique. I would have had no clue what to do.
We have some talents, but Emily, you and I are probably not the people to turn to if you need somebody to save your life. No, sadly, we wish we were. We wish we were.
But we could pray with you like Anne did.
Yes.
Which I love that she found a way to serve, even though she wasn't a medical expert. And that's what you're talking about.
Totally pray with you.
Yeah.
And honestly, I do think that being a comforter is a gift.
For sure.
Just to have someone there who was that reassuring voice, who was praying with Angie and her mom, I'm sure that meant so much to them.
Yeah. Anne was amazing. And by the way, she has an awesome Instagram page. If you want to follow Anne, her Instagram page is Anne Lacouture 6.
ANNLACOUTURE 6.
Yeah, and she is an interior designer. She has amazing ideas, so go check her out.
Yeah, she's all about bright colors. She's got a bunch of decorating ideas and DIY projects, and I could waste a lot of time on her Instagram page, so enjoy.
She's awesome. We want to thank Anne and Angie for sharing this experience with us. We're so grateful that Enrique had a full recovery, and we want to wish him all the best in his future as well.
Yes.
And thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, share this podcast so you can help us to continue to spread this light. Thank you for joining us. If you have a miracle to share, contact us at themiraclefiles.com or find us on Facebook.
We're now releasing multiple episodes each month, so subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube for amazing video content as well.
Join us next time as we discover more of God's miracles. And don't forget to look for His light in your own lives.